The demand for animal-sourced food products is increasing exponentially throughout sub-Saharan Africa. Now, investments, policies and institutional reforms are starting to target the African livestock sector. That's in order to seize business opportunities. For more on the impact of a livestock population and its contribution to economies, we're crossing to Nancy Morgan, senior economist at the World Bank. Nancy, thanks very much for joining us. So let's just paint a picture here, because if you're looking at meat demand or meat consumption by 2050, you're looking at numbers increasing there by 145%. That growth, the milk market expected to increase by 155%. So overall, most are saying that production is not going to keep up with the consumption demands in Africa. So it creates this opportunity for businesses. Just talk us through the investment case for investing in livestock production. Nancy,
Sorry,
hoping you can hear me, but basically, if you could just talk us through the investment case as it stands right now for businesses looking to livestock production.
Well, just to provide the context, if we remember back to 2008 when prices went so high, all of a sudden there was a renewed interest in investment in agriculture. It was this time that African countries really realized there was a lack of data, not only for livestock, but agricultural statistics. Consequently, all the African governments endorsed a treaty by the Africa UN Statistical Commission. So recently, because of this interest in investment and interest in data, the Gates Foundation has funded a project, and we're looking at working with pilot countries in Uganda and Tanzania and Niger. And in fact, we're looking at, as you say, 155% increase in meat consumption and dairy consumption. Mm-hmm. Now, this actually, Africa has always been on the sidelines in terms of growth and demand, and this is an exponential growth and a wonderful opportunity, as you say, for investment in livestock.
So talk us through exactly what it entails when you talk about livestock data innovation and compiling all this information. How do you go about doing that?
It's engagement with countries, and this Gates Foundation, which is initiated with the World Bank and the International Livestock Research Institute, FAO, and in combination with our partners, we're looking at working with national statistics agencies, members, officials from the national bureaus of statistics and livestock industries, and also the ministries to enhance livestock data, because basically without the data, it's very difficult to invest. Basically, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and it's difficult to invest.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the pilot projects you talk about, you've got some in Uganda, Tanzania, Niger. Why not places like Ethiopia, Djibouti, places where there are already larger livestock populations?
Well, actually, the initiative is broader, and we're looking at Ethiopia. For example, Ethiopia has the largest inventories of animals in Africa. But unfortunately, because of lack of this data, investors don't know where to invest. Governments can't make public policies that support the sector. So it is broader than we're learning from our experiences with these countries to work with the African Union, the African Union, to upscale these practices and increase not only investment in data, but investment in people.
Mm-hmm. So how these projects are being, how they're being rolled out. Just give us an idea of some of the challenges you've already come across and how you expect to build on the learnings so far.
Well, basically, we find that there's a lot of data in countries, but because of lack of institutional discussion between ministries and private sector, a lot of that data isn't being used, it isn't being leveraged, it isn't being revealed to private sector for investment. For example, in Uganda, the international businesses are looking for opportunities to invest in milk, and it's very difficult without the data.
Mm-hmm. So once, of course, you've got these databases up and running and the whole system to be able to provide the private sector with that information, do you see that as one of the key catalysts to providing investment? I mean, what else needs to be in place to be able to create that enabling environment?
Absolutely, because it allows governments to know where they're investing their scarce resources. It fosters engagement with the private sector. It allows, for example, for women to be allowed credit for producing egg industries, women to get technical assistance for for producing more milk for their families and for markets, and basically lowering the cost of animal products in Africa. And as you mentioned before, if it isn't done now, Africa is at a crossroads. Investment needs to be done, otherwise imports will continue to grow, and economic opportunities for a lot of the poor people in Africa will be missed.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, of course, to be providing Africans with the food they need and ensure that Africa doesn't, of course, become a net importer of livestock and animal source foods. But what about getting the food to the markets? I mean, surely there needs to also be a whole infrastructure support system, in a sense, that's built up around these industries.
Well, absolutely. I mean, governments need to invest in roads, they need to invest in electricity, they need to also invest in enabling policies, and they need to allow the private sector to function.
So, of course, this is really just the first step, as you say, these pilot projects on livestock data collection. Nancy, thanks for joining us for the conversation on that. Nancy Morgan, senior economist at the World Bank.